Boimler.
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 Boimler. Boimler. Boimler.
It's back!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Into the Wormhole with Larissa and Lauren. I'm Larissa Maestro, your captain, and here with me is my number one,
Lauren Lowen. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Sorry it's been a while. So we have not recorded a new episode in a few weeks, and we don't really have to explain why, but I just thought this would be a good time to say, like, Lauren's got a baby, so there's lots of childcare and baby things that are important, children things that are important to take care of that make scheduling, recording stuff maybe a little more complicated than it would be for people that don't have kids. And then on top of that, there has been a lot of anti-Asian violence in the country, and specifically the big event, which was the shooting in Atlanta a few weeks ago. That was a lot for me to process. I am a member of the API community, so that whole thing was really fucking awful and hard for me. And I just needed some time to sit with all the feelings that were coming up and all of the pain that I was going through. So thanks for being patient. Lauren and I have talked about doing an episode about our favorite Asians on Star Trek, which is very fun and I think would be cool to sort of like talk positively about, like, you know, our favorite Asian actors and characters on the show. So look out for that coming in the future. In the meantime, I super highly suggest listening to the podcast All the Asians on Star Trek. It is hosted by the guy who is responsible for the blog Angry Asian Man. And if you know that blog, I'm guessing you're probably Asian. But it is a really cute, cool podcast where he just invites people who have been a part of Star Trek over the years to come on and talk about their experiences. So it's really cool. So highly recommend that in the meantime. But yeah, thanks for being patient with us. And I'm going to edit the crap out of what I just said.
Yes.
Here we go. I'm going to hand it off to Lauren now. What are we talking about?
The sweet magic of editing. I love that. Thank you, Larissa. And I'll have to check that out. I don't think I've come across that one. So I look forward to it. And so we are continuing our conversation about Lower Decks, the newer Star Trek animation that debuted last August, I believe.
Yeah.
We have an older episode that covered episode 1 through 3. And we are now finally coming back to talking about the rest of the show, which I think is kind of interesting that we took such a long break instead of just going right to it. I wonder if it says something about the show that it took us so long to get back to it. I was kind of worried that it might mean that it was fine, but it just didn't really sink its nails into us. However, Larissa, I have quite a statement that I want to tell you that I think we'll kick off this episode as we continue our conversation on it.
I'm excited.
Yes.
I'm intrigued.
You, by the way, to explain to the listener, when we talked about Lower Decks, you just went and saw the whole thing. So that was August, right?
Yeah, I binged the whole fucking thing in August.
I goofed and didn't give you enough a heads up. You have not had a chance to review the later episodes that we are talking about today, but didn't talk about back in August.
I mean, I put them on last night while I was doing other things. So I wasn't like sitting down and taking notes like I normally would. I was just like, yeah, that's right, that happened.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Kind of
know?
the big picture things to just remember what happened, what episode was that. And then
Yeah.
I had seen 1 through 4, and I think we maybe talked a little bit about 4 last time.
Yeah, we did.
But I saw in the last two or 3 days, I watched the rest. There's 10 episodes, so I just gobbled up the last 6 episodes that we really haven't gone over as much. And I can say that if someone told me I had to either rewatch Picard or rewatch Lower Decks, I would pick Lower Decks.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a jolly good time. Again, I want to say I am a Rick and Morty fan. This is definitely in that vein. And the creator, who I always butcher his last name, I add like an extra syllable. So Larissa, give us that information. Who's
Mike McMahon.
Thank you. He was involved in Rick and Morty. It's very much got that tone that we talked about. And he's been involved in some other kind of adult snarky animations like South Park and stuff. But I had a lot of fun watching it. I think I would have had even more fun watching it with a fellow Star Trek fan. But I just found that the episodes in general, they were, snappy. They were short. I thought they were pretty solid. I laughed, I cried. No.
Yeah.
But like that's the only way I can kind of kick off this conversation in an interesting way, is saying I think this is a tighter package than maybe what Picard was going for.
I think that they definitely had their direction down. Like they knew exactly what they were going for when they made Lower Decks.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure if they did with Picard. And we've talked about it. We've talked about how like there are problems.
Picard had a tall order too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There was so much more pressure.
Yes.
So much more pressure on Picard. It's not like the animated series, the TOS animated series, was such a big deal. And everybody knows every episode that if you do another animated series, then everyone's going to be watching with bated breath. It's not the same as like you're bringing back like literally the most beloved captain. And we have to...
And you're bringing in 7. I mean, it wasn't just
7.
Yeah, it wasn't reserved
Data.
to next gen. You were bringing a lot of the lore, no pun intended, of
completely
of Star Trek. Yeah,
and making promises to the fandom too, like asking Whoopi Goldberg on national television to be on season 2, like that kind of stuff. Where like they were just like pumping up the expectations on Picard, but Lower Decks kind of like flew under the radar. And even though there are, I have some complaints about it. I have absolutely enjoyed the shit out of it. It is fun because like we're not used to purposeful written full episode full of humor on Star Trek. Like we're used to like a wink and a smile at the end of an episode. We're used to like a tiny little joke like, oh, Data didn't get it again. Do. We're not used to like giggles, We're not used to like literal jokes that are about Star Trek. Like we only do those things with each other, So like it's fun to see that on an actual Star Trek show.
Yeah, and again they're roughly like 20, maybe 25 minutes. And so yes, like obviously a show like Lower Decks is going to be like less complicated, basically. Like they know what they are, and they are supposed to be just these little narratives, like you said, very much laced of humor and inside references.
They're little snacks, little Star Trek snacks.
Yeah, but again, like I think individually, but also the series as a whole was executed quite well. Like they knew what they were going for, and they pulled it off. It's kind of like a side note. Have you been watching The Mandalorian?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm
all of it.
I'm as much of a Star Wars fan as like the next person. I'm not into it any more than just a casual watcher. I kind of know all the typical references and stuff like that, but I'm definitely not like a Star Wars person. But I love like The Mandalorian, just like you said, has like anything, it has problems, it has issues, and I would say definitely some of the episodes are stronger than others. But I thought that was so well done because they went for a much sort of smaller thing. Again, like the episodes are kind of nice chapters, and they all go together, just like Picard was supposed to be, but I also feel like The Mandalorian just had a smaller story to tell, and they told it really well. And that's another example, just like Lower Decks, of like, let's simplify things a little bit, whether it's the story or just what we're trying to achieve. And yeah, so I know this is like going a lot bigger than Lower Decks, but I think it's interesting.
No, I think, you know what? That's really interesting that you can compare it to The Mandalorian, because there absolutely are so many now huge franchises that are doing shorter run, like TV show kind of stuff. Like Marvel is doing this too, like with WandaVision. I don't know if you watched WandaVision.
I didn't have time, but Keith did and my brother did.
Yeah.
And I know it's been very critically acclaimed.
It's really good. It's very, very good. But in a way, it's the same sort of concept where you have this enormous universe, right? This enormous Star Trek universe, the enormous Marvel universe, the enormous Star Wars universe. And you're just sort of focusing in a story on a tiny piece of that universe. And that's sort of a tactic that a lot of these franchises are using now that is, I think, really smart, because there are so many details inside these universes, and there are so many now, especially for Star Trek, but there are so many inside jokes. There are so many things that you can bring back for fans. There are so many Easter eggs you can put in. There are so many breadcrumbs you can put in, and fans eat that shit up. We really do. So same with a show like WandaVision, same with a show like The Mandalorian, where the people making those shows were just like sprinkling in tiny little pieces of, fun, exciting fan candy, except with Lower Decks, that's cranked up to like 25 on a scale of 1 to 10. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. And I actually have in my notes like a couple of references. Well, actually just one that I was like, oh, I don't know that episode. I'm lost. Like this reference. I now know how it feels.
It was just like a fucking confetti cannon, and each piece of confetti is a reference to some other Star Trek thing. It was just, there's so many.
Here's the interesting thing, though. I was listening to our old episode, or the previous episode of Lower Decks this morning, just to kind of remind myself what we had discussed.
I should have done that. That's a good idea.
Well, it's not that we were going to repeat ourselves, but I was like, where were our minds at that point? And one thing I noticed, and it's kind of curious that one of us watched it in one go versus me who watched it and then went back and watched the later end.
Yeah.
At a separate, like many months later. Some of the issues that I think we had with the first part, I feel like ease up a little bit. I definitely think it starts off well. In the first part of our Lower Decks kind of review, I hate to call it review because it's like we don't care if you follow our opinion. You're just listening to us talk.
We're not giving you recommendations. We're just talking about what we think.
But I definitely said like give it a few episodes. Like the first one to me is definitely the one that's in general. I just don't like first episodes because they're just they have to get so much off the ground before they get into like more just fun things. But we talked about some of the dialogue being what you even said was probably sped up in post. Like it's too fast and too snappy.
Yeah.
I only noticed that once in the last 6 episodes. I think they really eased it up.
Yeah, I think they eased it up too. I mean, I notice in a lot of like new modern adult animation that in general the audio does feel sped up. Like Bob's Burgers feels sped up to me.
Okay.
I don't watch Family Guy, but I'm sure it also is. Like it's just a style. It's just like a stylistic choice. So I did still feel that, but it wasn't like it didn't drive me nuts. is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I want to say is I think in our first episode, I brought up the point that I felt like in the first 3 episodes, because if the listener doesn't know, a lot of times when a new show is debuted, the first 3 episodes will be given to journalists and reviewers to give them a sampling. So sometimes those first 3 episodes can be very crucial to the initial kickoff to a series. And I mentioned in our first review that I was hoping that the references would still be there, but that they would maybe bring it down a notch so that I felt like they were trying to sell it. And therefore it was like, we got to cram these first 3 episodes of all these references. And I definitely felt like later on that got a little, like just a little bit more comfortable, a little more breathing room. So that was nice to see that the stories I felt like weren't so jam-packed to the point where maybe it was a little distracting, or you even brought up with the amount of references and the sped up dialogue, you couldn't catch everything.
It was so fucking fast.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm missing out. I mean, I totally agree. Like, I feel like, especially the first 3 episodes, it felt like they were proving their knowledge.
Right? Like, we're legit.
The franchise.
We have to prove to you we're legit.
Yeah, and not just to like a journal. Like they were like saying, "Hey, fandom, we're real. We know. We know about
we're
it.
Down with
we know
it. We're
about
hip.
the things. We've seen it. We've seen the episodes as much as you have. We know all of the things. Like, here, look at this obscure reference. We're going to talk about Roga Danar." But but like it definitely did feel like they started to focus more on their particular part of the universe, as opposed to so many moments where they felt like they had to prove it, you know, while still bringing in stuff that was like bringing in a whole character that's an exocomp. I was just like, yes,
that's on my notes.
And then doing what they did with her.
Well,
I was like, fuck yes. First of all, I've been waiting for the exocomps to come back since I saw that episode. Like that, I love that episode, by the way. I forget what the episode is called.
I forget too. I actually don't know if I really paid it close attention because I was just playing one after the other, and it was like episode 8, episode 9.
Oh, I mean the TN.
Oh,
the TNG
I'm sorry.
episode.
Yeah.
Well, because like what I remember is like it being like a personal thing for Data. Like he was like, I know that these machines have sentience. I know they do, and I'm going to prove that they do, because if they do, then I'm not alone. It's a very beautiful episode. It's a very beautiful Data episode. So like I've been like, where the fucking ass? Like, where are they at?
Well, it brings back a good point that you have brought up several times in this podcast, which is, are they ever going to go back to that? Like we found like a sentient robot. And I think in the show, like they don't like I think they're basically, they get so advanced, they shut down on their own. I forget what happens to them. Someone's probably screaming it at me, but.
Oh, the exocomps, don't they volunteer? Like they actually get to a point.
Oh yeah, they
TNG,
sacrifice themselves.
Yeah,
but it's their
where
choice.
They're like, we need your help, and they're like, okay, we'll help you. Yeah, and they actually, and it's so sweet.
Yeah,
but like,
and I think. Go ahead.
Sorry, but then the continuation of the exocomp story is like so fucking hilarious.
I just joined Starfleet to piss off my dad. That's what it says.
Oh my god. And also, I just have to very quickly say that one of my favorite like personal moments in this whole season was in that episode. And it was, so you know how Rutherford's cyborg implant is like, he's trying to cycle the personality
which I
back
felt
to
like
normal.
was like an Instagram reference almost to the filters.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
The listener, Rutherford has a cyborg implant, and he's flipping through modes the way someone might. So it's like sexy mode, and then there's like sleepy mode, and it kind of, it feels like when you're filtering through an Instagram thing, and it's like the puppy filter, the glitter filter.
Yeah, it very much is. And so again, we said this before, or I talked about how I was excited about this. Rutherford is voiced by Eugene Cordero, who is Filipino American. That was really exciting for me. And then in this episode, when the exocomp, whose name is Peanut Hamper, decides that she's not interested in decides she's not interested in helping with this mission to save the ship, basically. Rutherford turns around and says, Peanut Hamper, there are so many lives at stake in a Tagalog accent. And I was like, you did not. I like literally rewound it multiple times just because, first of all, that's the first time I've heard a Filipino accent on Star Trek. That was beautiful. But also, it was the thing that he said was so ridiculous and hilarious. I was so just happy and proud in that moment. I was like, the thing that you say. And also, like, knowing that, like, there's no way that a director was like, what if you did a Tagalog accent there?
Yes, like he just did it. And they're like, that's the take.
Yeah. I guarantee he was like, I'm just going to talk like my mom right now. That's what's going to happen. After that, he knows that the only people that noticed it were people like me. So I knew that moment was for me.
Aw, I wish I could have been there to like witness your reaction.
It felt like so wonderful because like that's part of one of the things about Star Trek that is like so beautiful is that like people of all backgrounds have those moments with Star Trek where they're like, that was for me. Discovery is offering new moments like that to new demographics of people. It's always been part of what Star Trek is, and I got one of those moments, you know. And it was like I cried little tears.
I understand.
Actually, while I was like laughing hysterically because that episode was great.
You know what? To that point though, with the exocomp, like that's kind of something I noticed too with the episodes towards the end that I liked more was in the beginning. It felt like when a reference came, it was just like boom, it's 2 seconds, it's over. Towards the end, a lot of the episodes I think were stronger because a lot of those references became
the whole episode,
actual story plots, or they were like given more time to shine, and then you could really enjoy a more kind of complex and sophisticated joke and stuff. The exocomp deciding they're like, you can save the day, and she's like, I'm gonna pass, and just all her adventure of being a new entity on the ship.
And I mean, Badgie.
Oh God! It's when I was going to bring up Badgie.
Were you just about to say Badgie? Because we have to.
Can I talk about Badgie?
Yes,
I've been thinking about Badgie so much.
Oh my God!
Because this is a perfect example where Rutherford and Tendi. Yeah, I realized I'm like, I've been saying her name wrong. They are in the holodeck doing a training exercise because Rutherford has been developing it. And this is a perfect example of where I thought it was just going to be a little quick joke and it became something much more. And I really appreciated that. But while they're in there, the program's interacting with them. And we get Badgie, who basically is a spoof of the Microsoft Word Clippy. Like if you, I wonder if like younger people are as familiar with Clippy as like our generation. But
no, I honestly I think we're the last generation.
I was wondering.
We're the last generation to know about Clippy.
So Clippy was, if you were Microsoft Word and you were like starting to write something that looked like a resume or something, Clippy would be this little humanoid animated paperclip. Well, he just had eyes, but he was like a bouncy paperclip with big cartoon eyes, and he'd be like, "It looks like you're writing a resume. Do you need help?" And so they have Badgie that pops up in the holodeck with the same sort of like, hi, like chipper, what can I do for you?
Who the fuck at Microsoft was like, what if we made a little animated paperclip that just pops up and is like, are you writing a letter? Yes, Clippy, I'm writing a letter. I don't need your help.
I don't think I ever used Clippy.
No, not one time did I use Clippy. Not one.
That was funny because I actually felt like it was the few times that they took a reference from just something else, and put it in Star Trek, which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
And it really is like, it's a giant Star Trek badge with like goofy Mickey Mouse, hands or arms and legs, and then googly eyes. And I love the fact that when it's loading stuff, it just sort of looks deadpan and comatose. But anyways, what happens? Well, there's an accident and the safety protocol is shut off.
Also voiced by Jack McBrayer.
Yes.
Who you'll know
oh my gosh.
as Kenneth from 30 Rock.
He does such a good job.
Perfect voice casting.
So I thought Badgie was going to end there. Like, oh, haha, okay, it's like a Clippy thing. But then what happens is they parlay it into, there's a safety protocol, they get shut off, the safety protocols. And then Badgie turns demonic and becomes Killer Badgie and wants to basically kill the characters because they've kind of been a little mean to him when he was in nice mode. So yeah, it turns into this long kind of cat and mouse thing that it's more like a B plot. But the fact that they took it that long and made it more of a like, oh, again, something's wrong with the holodeck. Now Badgie's trying to kill them. I really enjoyed Badgie. Badgie to me was a highlight of...
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we even get more Badgie in the very last episode, but I won't spoil
Badgie
that.
Comes back. Yeah, Badgie comes back. It's because what they did was they took elements of Star Trek, like the holodeck malfunction.
Yes.
Is like a Star Trek staple.
Exactly.
We love a holodeck malfunction. We love when people get stuck in there. And then for some reason, the safety why is it even an option to shut off the safety protocols? We don't know. It just is. Somebody gets stuck in there. Sometimes it's you're stuck in there and then everyone's data and then they're all trying to kill you. Sometimes you're stuck in there and Moriarty is controlling the ship and he wants to leave the holodeck. Like there's so many instances. But this was just like, it had the spirit, It had the spirit while still being like utterly ridiculous.
Yes. That was one where I felt like the humor, the self-awareness, everything kind of came together and it was really fun. I also liked how, I want to say it's like the next episode. These two were like back to back, but I thought of you because again, it's like, are we ever, is Starfleet going to do something about it? We have a storyline where we find out what happens to all the people where shit goes wrong. And it's like episode. Basically they go around rounding up all the freak accidents, like if there's a teleporter accident or if someone, accidentally got joined together, or they have a character that's like half of him is aging and half of him is de-aging at the same time. So all these ridiculous things. And they're picking them all up to send them to the farm. But that just immediately brought me back to so many comments you have about the double Riker and all these things. Yeah. And it's like, wait a minute. What happened?
Are we going to do any research on this?
Yes.
No?
Are we going to
Okay.
Are we going to prevent this? So I love the fact, and that storyline has its own little funny twist. But I feel like that was a funny thing too, where
transporter accident.
Yeah, where it wasn't just like a reference, but I thought it was nice that it was more of like, this always happens. Let's make a commentary, a humorous commentary on the fact of like, what's the reality of that situation afterwards.
Yes. And what I'm hoping is that Lower Decks can be a vehicle for answering all of my questions about what the fuck happened to that thing that was a big deal for a single episode and then nobody ever hears about it again.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I want Mike McMahon and crew to go through all of Star Trek and be like, hey, there was that one thing that was like, why and like what? And we're just going to go back to that and be like, so this? That's what I want. That's what I'm hoping for.
So I do have like a list of a short list of just things I want to touch upon that might get your memory going, but things that really stuck out to me. Okay. One. Now this is this is something where if you're not a Star Trek fan, this wouldn't be nearly as funny. But there's that sequence in one of the episodes where Rutherford his cyborg implant is updating, and so he keeps like blacking out. And at one point he has to do a fan dance. They're like, quick, distract him with a fan dance. And that's definitely that's a reference to Uhura, right? When she's got the fan dance and distracting the...
Yes. And then he shows up at Gorn wedding and he's just being... Gorn wedding.
But the fan dance especially, I was like, that's good. So he's doing the fan dance and he's not really being very sensual about it.
Yeah.
I also thought of you...
Because Rutherford is the least sensual character probably on the show.
And he doesn't know what's going on.
No.
Okay, the Sub Rosa reference, where they're in the trial, which by the way is Kirk Kurtwood, thank you. I want to say,
Yeah.
Kurtwood Smith, which I'm so glad you mentioned that before I saw it, because he is hamming it up as that character when he's the alien.
He's so good.
Oh my God. It was hilarious. But when Broiler gets very animated and passionate and he's like, did Kirk know this? Did so-and-so know this? And he's like, did Crusher know that there was... He's saying something like, did Crusher know there was an alien entity in that lantern before she hooked up with it? No. And he's like, on that Irish planet?
I know. He called it like the alien from the Irish planet that she hooked up with that one time. I was like, yes. I mean, we appreciate this. This is like, because first of all, Sub Rosa is terrible. So it's so much fun to make fun of it. So like having a little reference like that.
Yeah.
Excellent job. I mean, there are a lot of fun moments like that. There was something where like Mariner was like yelling an insult at somebody and she's like, I'll send you to Deep Space 12 or something, and then somebody in the background's like, oh man, Deep Space 12.
Yeah.
And
something 8, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, just like, because a lot of this stuff feels like stuff that fans say while they're watching a show. You know what I mean? Like, it's
like if it was the Mystery Science Theater 3000 of Star Trek.
Yeah. I really very much enjoyed it. I did have a couple favorite moments though.
Yeah.
One of which was the whole episode where Mariner creates that holodeck program where she casts herself as the villain and she wants to beat the shit out of her mom.
And I just have to say this, and it's a Star Trek movie, so of course there are like credits zooming in on them and hitting some of the characters like in the head. And
yeah. And somebody, I forget who says it, but somebody's like, ooh, nice font.
Yeah. And they have like the very like elaborate zoom around of the ship. Like they even kind of make fun of the cinematography of the movie.
Yeah, of Star Trek, of Star Trek the Motion Picture. Like there's that whole scene with the Cerritos, but it's like it's modeled directly after that whole very long.
And one of the officers is like crying because it's just so beautiful.
That's great. But it's of course like it's the emotional part that I'm talking about. It's the part where she fights herself. So like the holodeck program is full of perfect replications of the whole crew because Boimler has hacked all of their personal logs.
Oh God, sorry, his name is Boimler. I think I'm saying Broiler. I cannot get some of these names
because they're weird names. It's fine. Boimler.
I'm sorry, keep going.
Boimler. So he's created a holodeck program based on everybody's personal logs so that he could do better at an interview.
And he's trying to do this goal while being in a movie setting. Like they're jet skiing hilarious. In the beginning.
I mean, first of all, it's really fun to like see. I love when like somebody walks into a holodeck program and everyone in the holodeck program is taking it very seriously and they're like, this is just a holodeck program. Like, can we get out of here? Can we go to the bar and get something to drink? Like, why are you in here? You know what I mean? Like they're like treating it like it's just a room, you know, they're not treating it like it's like what is happening in there. Anyway, so Mariner hijacks it and writes it up as like a huge Star Trek movie, and then ends up in a situation in which she's beating the shit out of her mom, but then her holodeck character comes and rescues her mom. So she's having this whole fight with her holographic self that is based on her true self, and it's so like insightful and lovely and like touching to watch this character like actually figure out what is going on with them emotionally. And I thought it was really a cool use of the Star Trek universe in-universe technology to get to a really vulnerable and like personal place. Like I was like, look at you guys like going for the deep shit.
Yeah, because
but
she even
still
literally
being entertaining
says,
and funny.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
part of the humor of it is the fact that it's requested that she does therapy. And
Yeah.
she says, this is what I'm going to do for therapy. And it's just to basically like run around and kill everyone and just kind of do like this fantasy of hers. And then, it meets up with that. And she even admits like, wow, that therapy works.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that, how they can touch upon like more serious notes for the characters. Yeah. I mean, obviously serious in the context of this kind of cartoon. Like it's nothing
Yes.
crazy, but it does give the characters somewhat of an arc. And I think we'll agree that Mariner has the most arc. She has the most to deal with. Everyone else right now is definitely got personalities and characters that I feel like have defined themselves by the end. I think I mean,
Boimler's growing a little bit, I would say, but like for the most part, I mean, we know that Mariner is the star of
Mariner
the show.
Whereas it's so funny because I remember like in my character design teacher talking about a lot of times when you have a main character, which Mariner is kind of presented as the main character, the central character, I'll say, of the Lower Decks crew, you know, at least in all the marketing and promotional materials and even in the show. And everyone else is kind of a satellite character, and they're kind of they're almost like a flavor. Just like if you think about Mickey Mouse, like Donald Duck is angry.
Mm-hmm.
Goofy is goofy. Like they don't, those side characters kind of stay in their lane. And that's how I feel about Boimler and Tendi and Rutherford, is that even though they do have room and characteristics, they have a personality, like they're meant to stay a little bit more in their lane. And Mariner's the one that we're going to see kind of developing. I did like that episode too, where her old best friend from the academy is like the babysitting captain while her mom's away. And that was kind of fun too. I felt like that had moments that you were talking about where she's like, what happened to you?
Yeah, she's like, what? She's when her friend figures out that she's trying to like fuck up her opportunity on purpose,
or in some cases she is like,
like
she really
where
is
she's
trying.
Like, she's like, you're beefing this, yeah, and she's like, but maybe it's because like that there were if any of you have ever listened to our podcast, you know that Larissa loves a good friend moment in Star Trek, and there were quite a few of them in that episode. It was like a nice, like strong female friendship where they're trying to support each other, or one of them's trying to support the other one, and it's just, I fucking love that shit. I just want to watch people be good friends.
And if you think about it too, I forget how much of Rick and Morty you've really watched.
Not a ton.
Okay, but I'll just say
it was mostly because of the burping and barfing noises, to be honest with you.
Well, I was gonna say though, like even though it's very much a silly ride, I don't want to say there's serious moments, but Rick has a relationship with his daughter, which is complicated and is touched upon several times. He has a relationship with Morty, which is complicated, and you know, the father and the mother, like they have problems, they get divorced, like they have all this humor, but they do have these dynamics to work with and kind of mine when they're writing stories. And I think that's what I'm starting to see here too, is a little bit of that going on, which is nice. I think they actually set it up really well to season 2. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see that being the case with Rick and Morty because like I've seen all of Community. So like I know Dan Harmon's like writing style and like what he tends to do with characters and stuff. And I did really enjoy Community quite a bit. So like there always is some depth there with character relationships with each other. There's always something, even though everything is ridiculous all the time, there's always something true in some of the friendships, you know, even if the characters are over the top, there is something relatable. There's always something that makes sense in our real world. And I do get that from Lower Decks as well. Like there are very true and honest relationship moments in almost every single episode of this series. Like very, very real mother-daughter stuff, very real best friend stuff, very real
just like self-discovery, you know?
Yeah, self-discovery, like dealing with a colleague that you don't get along with, or like trying to support a friend when you don't really know how. Like all of these things are in it, and that's, I think, one of the things that makes it a good TV show, a good TV show.
And,
you know,
and these things are like not new. Like The
Yeah,
Simpsons
absolutely.
has this,
Right?
Like,
Yes.
it's kind of like the skeleton of like this and this character, this and this dynamic. So
Mhm.
yeah. So, but I'm glad to see that so that you can kind of hang a story on those dynamics, which is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, the last episode, which speaking of references, the Packlets, is that what they're called again?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
They come back.
The Packlets.
The Packlets come back. I know you haven't seen it, but that episode I thought had really interesting music.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It just mainly like the action scenes when the Packlets do come out. But I was really curious. I thought, the compositions, the cinematography, and the music was very effective.
Yeah. I mean, from what I remember, I enjoyed it all.
I thought they did a good job of like, we're at the end of season 1 and what's going to happen to these characters. You'll have to wait till season 2. So again, kind of like spoilers, but
yeah,
Rutherford loses his it's like violently ripped from his head. Like if you went
his cybernetic implant.
Yes. If you went, frame by frame, I mean, you even see like, I think the eye socket and
yeah,
I mean, it's not gory, but it's like, damn. But he loses his memory. So, that's kind of something they can work with. We find out that Boimler has been transferred upon his request to the Titan because Troy and Riker show up. That's kind of like a fun thing at the end of the season. I really love animated Troy, by the way. Her eyes are so big.
I know. I love animated Troy though too. I do.
Yes.
But also I have to say, this is the second time in a new Star Trek series that we've seen Will show up with the fucking Titan and save everyone.
Yeah, right? It ends the same way Picard does. Although I like how there seems to be more, like, every time I've seen Riker in a scene, whether it's the season 2 trailer or this, there's like some sort of jazz reference. And I kind of hope that's
hilarious.
a thing. Like every time there's going to be some sort of silly jazz reference.
Oh, the jazz.
What if he just walked around with a trombone? I would love that.
Oh my God, please. I hope that he brings the trombone on the bridge and tries to talk to everybody, but with the trombone. Like there was that one scene. I hope he shows up with his trombone and he just like sounds like the teacher from Peanuts.
From Peanuts. Wah, 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 wah. I hope he just does a wah wah at some point. Like wah wah. Every episode he just like hops
I'm
in.
ready for him to come back and play Nightbird for fucking finally.
Oh my gosh. Coming around. and then Mariner is kind of like pissed because she didn't know Boimler was doing this. We also see in season 2 trailer, it looks like Boimler's a little in over his head.
Oh yeah, that's right. So Mike McMahon tweeted on April 5th the new teaser trailer for season 2 of Lower Decks, which is officially happening. And we just watched it together and it looks like there's going to be some fun shit. Like you said, Boimler looks like he's not having the best time on his dream job. It looks like he's a little scared.
Which is true. Like space is terrifying, like I said before.
Right? Space is fucking scary.
Yeah. Yeah. So and what I love is that these things can be resolved over the whole season or just like one episode. It might be like all these things are taken care of. Rutherford might have his memory back intact, and it's like, hey, from the time between season 1 and season 2, he got his memory back. It was just something that happened.
That was a little bit heartbreaking, though, for me. Like,
when
I do, because
I love Rutherford. I know you said he was like your favorite character, and I can see why.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just you guys. It's not just because Eugene Cordero is Filipino. It's also because I tend to like the nerdiest, sweetest character.
He is the ultimate like friendship moment character, I think. Yeah. At least in this show.
Like he's like the Geordie.
Oh, he's so much more. He's like, yeah.
But he's like yeah, but he's like way more naive, but like also like just really like he's so kind and he just like wants to help everyone. And I love that. That's my fucking favorite.
He's very sweet.
And he's so sweet and goofy.
I also have to say with the last episode real quick, this is my last note. I'm sorry. I'm just like, I gotta squeeze this in.
No, I gotta.
I also love when Riker walks in and there's the Great Enterprise reference when he's like, oh, sorry, I was just on the holodeck checking out the Enterprise crew, which is a great reference to the last episode of Enterprise where you find out this has been like Riker researching the crew, and it's considered one of the worst finales in like TV history.
It's so bad.
But then he says, "Yeah, you know, Archer and that group. Wow, that was a long road." Like,
he says that was a long road for them getting from there to here.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, oh my god,
we literally like just talked about that theme song.
Like, that's great.
Oh my god, I fucking love it. I also love that like they're not leaving anyone out so far. No series has been left out.
No one's safe.
They're talking about everyone. So that's good. I do hope that like we continue to get more focus in season 2, so that like I'm not still like sort of like on the edge of my seat, like hoping I don't miss any references to things. Although it is fun to like watch it more than one time and then find more Easter eggs in there. It's
funny too, because in our first conversation about Lower Decks, we were like, season one episodes. We've said it before, like if we're honest about it, a lot of the season ones I think pretty much all the season ones are pretty rocky. I think this is a pretty strong season 1.
Yeah, it's really strong.
I know it's a completely different animal, but like it's it's fun. Yeah. Again, it may not be for everyone. Like if it's just not your flavor, if you're not into the Rick and Morty animations or something, you just may not connect with it. But I thought it was really fun.
Yeah. And also like I think that because it has this sort of more sitcom kind of flavor to it, it is probably, even without all of the understanding of the references, it's probably a little more digestible.
Oh yeah. Well, it's episodic. Just like if you think about it, like at least Next Gen of Voyager and TOS was like, you can kind of just like plop yourself in, and you don't have to really worry too much about feeling left out of like, wait, what's happening?
Yeah.
You can't just watch episode 5 of Picard, or else you're going to be confused.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. There's no way. Yeah, you can't really just drop in the middle of Discovery and just it's just not possible. Like you can barely do that with DS9. Like you can't.
Yeah. It's refreshing.
You kind of got to know.
I would say it's refreshing to have this because it's something where you can do that, Yeah.
You
don't have to be so committed to it.
Yeah. And I feel like it's possible that Strange New Worlds or they've said that Strange New Worlds is going to be more that way. Like it's going to be more like Adventure of the Week, like you say, which cool. We're going to have a couple of those. I am curious to see what Section 31 is going to be like. That's going to be more of a like longer, like season long story arc, or if that's going to be episodic. I have a feeling that it's going to be more story arcy.
Yeah. Going back to The Mandalorian, I think that's a really good example of how a show today can take a very, I don't even want to say it's like small world, but it can narrow the focus down and still be this story arc, but have it in these kind of bite-sized chunks. I mean, that's kind of the nice thing, is there's the overall mission of getting the child back to wherever he needs to be. But like, I really do feel like if I needed to some degree, there are certain episodes of that I could pull out and say, hey, watch this one.
Yeah. I mean, so I am pleasantly surprised with this series, and I am absolutely looking forward to the second season. I love this new like branch of Star Trek. This feels like a very organic sort of place for it to go. Like I was afraid this was going to feel forced.
Yeah. No, me too.
At the beginning, But now I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, this feels so honest to the fandom. Like all of these jokes are like jokes we've made on forums or made to each other. Like it's like somebody. Here's what it is. It's like if somebody took Star Trek meme culture and made it into a show,
a 10-episode animated show.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, yes, it has the references and the jokes and kind of like that fan service, but I just genuinely found many of the episodes fun to watch, just like if I was watching anything else, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're definitely based in Star Trek, and some of them like again, the ship that has all the accidents, all the Starfleet accidents, like that one.
Oh my God,
was very much.
She's trying to keep it, but it's like keeping the film on the things. Oh my God.
So that was one that was rooted in, again, like a reference or a Star Trek observation, I would say. But I found the story they weaved from that to be entertaining, just like I was watching anything else.
Yeah.
You know, I think we talked about how our significant others were entertained, even though they're not the biggest Star Trek fans. And I think that also is a testament to the reach it has. There were a couple of references, like I said, I have to admit, I'm like, nope, don't know that episode. And I felt I could get the humor, even though I felt like I'd probably appreciate this a lot more if I saw the episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
But still.
And that's sort of one situation in which I feel like, or one aspect of this that I feel like is where it sort of went too far, is that like I don't want anyone to I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to feel like
you don't want to feel like you have to study for this show.
Yeah. It's okay to like make a reference to something that I maybe don't know, but also like if you're making a reference to something and like we don't remember it, like we have a Star Trek podcast, like we're invested in Star Trek, like maybe that's not the best. I don't know. That's really one of the only criticisms I still have of the series, is that like I don't want to feel like I have to study Star Trek to
those big concepts
to get all the jokes.
Yeah, like holodeck going wrong. Okay, cool. Like everyone's gonna know that reference. Some of the and as long as they're sprinkled in here and there, then
like
it's
a reference
fine.
to the Janeway maneuver, like that's fucking hilarious. You know, like I like the statue of Miles O'Brien, like even just like the exocomp. Like there's only one episode with exocomps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're like now 2 episodes. So like even taking something that's potentially pretty like deep in the lore of Star Trek is fine. It was just because that there were just so fucking many.
Yeah, especially in the earlier part of the series. So I definitely have to say the later half. Although, you know, it's been a long time since I've seen the earlier ones, but my gut tells me, my gut tells me that like it gets better and you're rewarded for watching all 10 episodes. Definitely.
Yeah. It definitely feels like they breathe more.
And oh man, I just find it very refreshing too, because again, like as a parent in a pandemic still, like I don't always know what's going to happen today. So sometimes when a more grander, epic cinematic series like Picard comes out, it's hard for me to commit to watching it regularly enough where I kind of stay on top of things and I don't start forgetting. This is nice because you really can binge watch 3 or 4 episodes, or you can watch one episode once a month and you'll be fine. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, honestly, y'all, this is like why we haven't talked about Discovery yet.
I know, I'm sorry.
Because there's so much. There is so much of it, though.
To your point,
there's 3 seasons, and they're like 45-minute long episodes, and it's really
to your point, though. I kind
so
of just to want to be crazy, just pop in. And I think we talked about maybe me just like popping in on season 3 and start watching, and then us talking, and I could be like, "What the hell is this about?"
Because really, I mean, I'm okay, like whatever, but I just really want to talk about season 3. Like, I don't really care about talking about seasons 1 and 2 because like they've been out for a while.
Yeah,
everyone's talked about those, but like I also like they're fine, they're fun, especially season 2. I really enjoyed, but like season 3. Ooh.
Is it a different showrunner? I haven't followed like the behind the scenes. Is there like a big switch from season 2 to season 3 in any of the people who are in charge?
They brought in new directors. And they're like the diversity of the people that they're bringing into work on the show is just like getting broader and broader and more awesome. And they just keep giving Sonequa Martin Green like really fucking cool stuff to do.
Okay, then. All right.
And there are new cast members, and there are like 3 main new cast members, and then there's a new villain, and it's just
good times.
Yeah,
good times.
It's good time. It's very good time.
But yeah, that's
it's
like
very,
a
very
really good example of what I'm talking about. Like I do want to check out Discovery, but it just feels
It's
like
just
such
a lot.
big. It feels like a big
project.
Like a whole ham has been placed in front of me, and I'm like, dude, I just want a slice. Like
It's definitely a lot. It's like the difference is Discovery is not casual watching.
Yeah,
Lower Decks is casual,
and that's why I like
there's
going back to TNG and Voyager and just like or Deep Space Nine, even though it had more of a overarching story. But it's like you just pick an episode and
and you can just put it on and have a good time. Yeah, I mean Discovery is, because it feels important, I guess, and because there's so much more going on, and because it is not episodic, because it is a big story arc, like you feel like you have to keep track of what's going on in order to get the full experience.
Yeah. Like if you're not paying attention, you're not going to get the full impact of the story and stuff.
Yeah. And I don't feel that kind of pressure when I'm watching Lower Decks.
Oh, obviously not. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely like I want to get a Star Trek fix, but like I'm not trying to like take notes on Discovery. Even though I fucking loved this season, I'm going to watch Lower Decks. I'm going to put on an episode of Lower Decks. You know? That's fine. It's fun.
Yeah.
I know we talked about this last time too, but like I would love to go back and watch TAS.
Oh yeah.
And talk about some of those, cuz there's some fun shit.
All right. Yeah, let me know which ones I should watch and we'll do that.
Yeah. We'll do a Larissa's top 3. Larissa's top 3 the animated series episodes.
Nice.
It feels sort of more like Scooby-Doo or something.
I just remember Spock is riding a brontosaurus at some point, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun. I mean, there's a lot of fun shit.
Yeah.
Going from that to sort of a wrap, I hope to see more non-humanoid aliens, because this is an animated series. You can literally do whatever you want. You know,
very true.
We don't have to worry about like making prosthetics and like integrating live action with CGI. You know, like they can just draw it. So like there's something in the trailer with it's like a snake with a whole bunch of heads. Like yes.
Yeah, just more like
that.
Crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, more weird alien shit.
Find us in the collective at intothewormhole.show, on Instagram at intothewormhole.podcast. Into the Wormhole is brought to you by We Own This Town.
They actually had the space salamander from Threshold. Do you remember that?
Yeah. They went back and found the babies. Bees.